Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday night in the Spotlight. I'm so excited to have joining me tonight Christine Ball to talk to us about changing your breathing to change your life. Christine has been practicing and teaching energy medicine for over 35 years and is the owner of New Healing Horizons. She specializes in helping you to find relief from stress with a practical, personal approach that I can personally attest to so that you can sleep better, breathe better, and feel more grounded. Buteyko Breathing can help you to reduce your asthma symptoms, stop snoring, and also helps you to come back into your body. Chris will share her top breathing tips and a free breathing symptoms survey. Everyone can connect with Christine at www.newhealinghorizons.ca. So thank you so much, Chris, for joining me here tonight.
Hi, Catherine. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me again.
Anytime, anytime. I'm always so interested in what it is that you have to say. And tonight, John had asked me who's on your in the spotlight tonight, and I said it's Chris Ball, and she's talking to me about Buteyko Breathing, and it helps with snoring. He said maybe I should listen to it, and I
There
said
you
yes,
go.
maybe you should.
I can help you, John. I can help you.
uh, so, can you tell us a little bit more about what is Buteyko Breathing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I had only heard of it, I think it's 6 years now. I've been an educator.
Okay.
And Dr. Buteyko was a Ukrainian medical doctor back in the 50s. And he had a special interest in people that were really, really, really ill. And he noticed that when you're really, really ill, breathing is like all over the place. If there's anybody watching who is a health professional, we know that the sicker people get, the worse their breathing gets. And at end of life, there's a whole other, type of breathing that happens, and you can kind of tell what's happening with that. But his question was, are they breathing that way because they're sick, or are they sick because they're breathing that way?
Mm.
And so he observed over 600 people to try and get an idea about whether which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what he found was, in all of his observations, that when someone's breathing patterns, we call them dysfunctional. Dysfunctional sounds kind of strange. I like the words helpful and unhelpful. It's a little more neutral, and unhelpful is a better way of putting it. Because when we think of dysfunctional, we think of something really off the rails, like it's so bad you can tell what's happening. But our dysfunctional breathing or unhelpful breathing, it creeps, it creeps and it creeps until finally we're saying like, oh my God, my chest is so tight. It's like I forget to breathe during the day. Welcome to chemistry. And this is the non-woo-woo part of what I do. And I love it because it's science. And I love it all, you know that. But our breathing informs the health of every cell in our body. But the way we kind of look at breathing in North America is if you're upright and sucking air in somehow, well, that's okay because you're breathing. But we forget that we started off with very healthy breathing patterns, probably. If you ever watch a baby, their tummy rises and falls gently. Their chest doesn't really move. And so that's their breathing using their diaphragm. So the diaphragm, we probably hear a lot about it. It looks like a bell, and it separates your chest cavity from your tummy cavity.
Okay.
So it's our main muscle of breathing. It's the thing that should be doing the work as we breathe. But due to stress, due to physical problems, due to all kinds of different things, sometimes we breathe faster than we should. But again, we don't notice it because it creeps. Yeah. And then once we are breathing faster than we probably should, it's a lot easier to move air from our chest instead of our tummy. So we start to mouth breathe, and then we start to breathe from up here, even using some of the muscles of our neck and our chest. And that's when we can tell things have gotten a little bit wonky.
Yeah.
But he spent the rest of his life really talking to people about breathing and helping them correct their breathing patterns. And he originally started to teach some folks who went to Australia first, and then they got instructed in Australia, and then brought it over here to the US and Canada.
So, interesting.
Yes, very, very science-backed, very medical-backed, which I really enjoy.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's interesting because even as you're speaking about this and trying to pay more attention to my own breath, it's amazing how much breath just comes down to here versus I have to actually consciously be aware to take a breath all the way down into my stomach.
Yeah, it's very true. And over here, we confuse deep breathing with big breathing. So somebody will say, take a deep breath, and we suck in this much air. When
Yeah.
really, all deep breathing means is relax your tummy and let your diaphragm bring the air down the way it should. So the thing is, when
Mm.
you take a big breath in, that means you're going to take a big or give a big breath out,
Yeah.
and then you just start this really huge breathing, and that's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to talk too about the nose breathing versus the mouth breathing. So I know this is a conversation we've had before,
Yeah.
and I've tried to share it with some people. Of course, I'm not an expert in it. So I'm like, just talk to Christine Ball about it. So, can you tell us what is the difference between the mouth breathing and the nose breathing, and what is the benefit of one versus the other?
Totally.
Awesome.
Um, a saying in Buteyko is you should eat as much with your nose as you breathe through your mouth. So our mouth is made for eating and our nose is made for breathing. So breathing through the nose is actually incredibly important because we're designed that way. And the reason we're designed that way is because there's an awful lot of good stuff that happens in our nose. So for example, if it's cold outside, your nose will warm the air before it goes into your lungs. If it's too hot outside, it will cool the air. Did you also know that by nose breathing, you retain up to a liter of water per day in your body?
Oh, really?
Yes. Also, the way our the way our sinuses are formed, they're like spirals. So the air just doesn't down the back of your neck. It turns and it warms and it gets humidified. It gets cleaned. There are little sticky bits in there that grab hold of pollutants and pollens and viruses and bacteria, which is why we need to breathe through our nose. When you breathe through your mouth, you're just hauling it all into your lungs. So
Hmm.
lots of good reasons. It also slows down our breathing naturally. And when people say take a big breath in and blow it out through your mouth, that actually mimics stress breathing. Because when you're upset, you're panting, and that activates our fight and flight part of our nervous system. Whereas breathing through your nose, you're more apt to find some of that diaphragm action. And it also activates our rest and digest part of our nervous system. So breathing directly informs our nervous system, no question.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. And as a person who suffered with asthma when I was younger, which can at times be triggered in the cold weather,
Yes.
I tend to be a mouth breather. I'm very well aware of this
Yep.
now. But I do tend to lose my breath more walking in the cold weather.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. And in fact, when people have asthma symptoms or the cold weather, they call it cold weather asthma, all of this can be explained biochemically, and it's not difficult. Doesn't matter if anybody has any background in this or not, if they have any idea, where are my lungs? I don't know. By the time we finish, they know exactly how you breathe and exactly why and what happens. And honestly, to a person, I've had everyone say, really? It's that simple? And that's actually what is happening when I do this? It's like, yeah, but we're not taught. We're not taught how we breathe. We're not taught why we should breathe a certain way. We don't really know a whole lot about how we breathe. And if we don't know a whole lot, how do we know something is a little bit wonky?
Well, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, Doris is asking, so then what does your breathing do when you yawn?
Yawning is a really funny phenomenon. There isn't a whole lot of definitive information about why we yawn. I can tell you that in some instances, well, sometimes when you're tired, but when it comes to breathing issues, sometimes we yawn because our brain thinks we should be breathing more.
Oh.
It's a biochemistry thing.
Yeah.
So without getting too deep into it, yawning is kind of weird. There's different reasons that we yawn. If we yawn a lot, it could be our brain thinking that we need to breathe more, when actually 9 times out of 10, we need to breathe less.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. So when someone comes in to see you for a Buteyko breathing session, is it a one session and see how it goes? Is it a couple of sessions, or how exactly does an appointment kind of break down, and what does that look like for, and I realize it's very individualistic as to what people are
Yeah,
coming into it for, or coming in for as well.
for sure, for sure. The lovely thing I really enjoy about Buteyko is it can be tailored to basically anybody's situation. The first thing we would do is talk first, because I would want to find out, what is going on. We have like a little, we call it hyperventilation. Hyperventilation doesn't mean you're walking around with your tongue hanging out, panting like a dog. Hyperventilation just means that we're breathing more than the current action calls for. So if I'm jogging down the street, don't laugh, I used to, and I'm huffing and puffing, well, I'm moving a lot. My brain has to keep things in balance. So I'm going to breathe faster and harder. Makes sense. But I've also done Reiki on people, and they're very relaxed, 10 or 15 minutes into it, and they're breathing like 20 breaths a minute. They're laying there relaxed. That's way too much. So we would call that hyperventilation.
So what is a typical amount of breaths that we should be taking then in a minute?
So
in
Western
a
medicine,
resting state.
yes. 8 to 12 breaths per minute is very good. 12 to 20 is what doctors will say is usual. But as we know, just because something is usual doesn't necessarily mean it's helpful.
Yeah.
Now, that's a great point, though. So if someone was going to come to me and they said, I just kind of feel off a little bit. I find that I'm kind of holding my breath a bit. My allergies seem to be acting up a little bit, and I just feel like my breathing should be a little better than it is. We'll talk. We'll kind of do that hyperventilation outline, which it's basically symptoms.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of check and see where they have their symptoms. Are there any 3s and 4s? Is it just a bunch of 1s and 2s, which is kind of like low level puny? Nothing big that stands out. But mediocre health is not a good thing either, because it really does affect your quality of life. And sometimes you don't know how bad you feel until you feel better. And then you think, holy mackerel, like I really wasn't doing very well. So it's very interesting. If the person just wants to tune up their breathing, come away with some tips, have a better understanding about how they breathe, what they can do about it, and things they can take home. I do a 2-hour personal breathing instruction, and there's a PowerPoint presentation, there's a booklet. We go through all kinds of things. So you really come away with more of an awareness. And to be honest, once you're aware of the things that you do, you can then change them. But if you're not aware of what's kind of wonky, you just carry on like we all do, because we don't know anything is wrong.
Yeah.
99% of the time for folks with low level things, that's a good start. If somebody has sleep apnea or snoring or major issues, especially anxiety, then I have a 5-class course, and I try and get all 5 classes done in a month, because then I can watch you do the exercises. We can make sure things are going the right way. You've got a really good understanding about what you're doing and why.
Yeah.
And it's $400. I can do payments. We can split it. If you need it, we'll make it work, because, I believe that we should have as much access to government paid preventative healthcare services as we do regular healthcare services. So nobody's not going to get my help because of some money, because especially this year, good Lord. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I still love that about you. So I found it interesting, actually, that you said, someone who snores, that's as high of a number as what, say, someone who's experiencing extreme anxiety. So And because I lay beside a snorer every night, I want to go a little bit more into that, if that's okay. So what is the
Absolutely.
big deal with the snoring? I understand he's not getting as much oxygen as what he should be, and that's the reason why I give him gentle nudges
Right,
throughout the
right,
night. But
right. So with snoring, um, a lot of this is physics as well. So if you think of a river, like say our Grand River, and it's nice and wide and the flow is nice and it's pretty gentle. But if you narrow that river and there's more water going through a smaller area, you can hear it more, right?
mm,
It makes noise and it's turbulent. It's the same with air. So if you're breathing gently, softly, you're not going to hear it. And in fact, when your breathing is really, really good, you should not be able to hear yourself breathe. Now, that comes and goes. We all go up and down. I've had to go back and kind of start from the beginning with myself this year, just because it's been this year and we're humans.
yeah,
So with snoring, you kind of get into the pattern of over breathing, but it doesn't happen in a day and a half. It can happen over months and years.
yeah,
And because we're still breathing and because we just make a lot of noise, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. And especially if you've got a child who snores, that is no good. That is no good because it's indicating that there is something wrong with the breathing. So if you're sucking air in really hard, things are going to start to collapse. So if you even do this, if anybody wants to do this and they're watching, if you just breathe through your nose gently, if you can, no problem. But if you go fast,
yeah,
everything sucks in, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's physics.
yeah,
So if you're breathing in hard and breathing it out, breathing in hard, you're creating all this turbulence and it's so much air that you're sucking in. So it creates a lot of noise, it creates turbulence. You might also, it could be positional. So if you lay on your back, your tongue could move back, your soft palate, like there's tissue in here that will move and kind of form that block, so you could have like blockage for the snoring. Funnily enough, sometimes when there's those gaps in the breathing, and as a snoring wife that I have been as well, you kind of lay there and you're like, is he gonna, is he gonna, is he gonna? And then there's this giant
yeah.
noise. Well, believe it or not, your brain is actually trying to get him to not breathe for a little bit of time to build up more carbon dioxide so he can actually breathe better.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Aren't our
Your
bodies so amazing?
No matter what's going on, your body is always trying to help you.
Yeah,
We just sometimes don't know it.
yeah,
And it's the same with when people will say, I forget to breathe. Well, your body's also trying to balance things out and it tries to get you to do different things. So again, biochemistry. But snoring, depending on how bad it is too. I mean, yes, you're right. There's lower level of oxygen. It's not a good sleep. It's not a deep sleep. It's not a REM sleep. You suffer. So it's kind of a shit show for all involved. And it can be changed. Totally.
like, what's your number? I've got it.
Yeah. Within 2 weeks, if people will do the work,
Yeah,
because you do need to do the exercises. It's like anything else. We're just retraining our system,
yeah,
but we're making changes to our brains. So the great thing about Buteyko that I love is that once you do it, you've got the tools for the rest of your life. You can measure and if say John did the course, everything was great. And let's say there was a real period of stress or he forgot to do the exercises because we all do that. I'm feeling great and I could take my vitamins for 3 more weeks. We're human.
yeah,
But he'd be able to do the little bits of measuring and things that we do. They're super easy. And he might say, ooh, a little bit of a slip there. So then he can just go back and do the exercises again till he gets back up. So you've got this tool for the rest of your life
I
that
love
just
that.
helps you in every facet of your body.
Yeah. Now, if someone say is experiencing stress right now and they're listening to this and they're going, this is something that I need, but I'm still so stressed in my life,
Yeah.
is it still something that they can step into? at a point of stress? Because I just feel like everyone right now, all of our shoulders are up and we're all just like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
walking around going, I'm surviving, you know? So it's still something that we can actually use as almost like a stress reduction tool then?
Yeah. One of the things, I love Buteyko. I have, taught it for, I think, 6 years now. I listened to a presentation by a lady named Jane Clapp. She is an embodiment therapist. She's in Toronto. And last year at the Buteyko conference, she did a presentation. Changed the way I look at Buteyko. Like, it's still the regular things, but she just highlighted to me, let's say people with trauma. I mean, a lot of us have trauma from different things, varying degrees. Some is holy mackerel, holy mackerel. Some is, oh, I feel a little triggered when I see this. But our breathing is so responsive to what's happening in our environment. It's the first thing that changes when we're stressed, when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're relaxed. So if you've got someone who's been through a massive amount of trauma, they might not even be able to get to their diaphragm. Because if we think of our underbelly, that's our very protected place, right?
Mm.
So we can tend to kind of hold ourselves tight. So sometimes we can't even get stomach moving. So we can take Buteyko as slowly and gently as whoever needs. And the number one thing to take away from this presentation today is breathe through your nose. That is the number one thing
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
It's interesting because I always start breathing through my nose when I talk to you, only because we've had these conversations. But it is something that I've become more aware of when I'm feeling like, a little bit stressed about something. Funny that I just breathe through my mouth to do that. But then I will become aware, oh, breathe through your nose and exhale through your nose. And I know that will help to calm you down.
Yeah.
And I've just lost my train of thought on that. It's been amazing for myself to just center through the breathing through the nose
Yes.
and exhaling through the nose, and just being able to have that awareness.
Yeah.
Even if, because when you're not being mindful, your body just does whatever your body does. But then when you can
Right.
bring it back to that awareness of, right, this is how we do this now.
And it thinks it's helping you because we always say 10,000 years ago, when you're walking through the bush and a tiger jumps out from behind the tree, you suck air and run because they were designed
Yeah.
that way, save our life. Once the tiger goes away, things should come back to normal
Yeah.
and you can go on to your regular rate. But the way things are now, most of us don't really have life threats that happen to us a lot. There are still some that do, but maybe it's job, maybe it's bills, maybe it's house, kids, all this stuff. So we start to have a little bit higher level of stress. And then we get used to that. We think that's normal because it feels pretty normal. Then we just step up. It's like the frog in the warm water, right?
Yeah.
You don't notice how hot things are getting. So we never go back to the zero, very rarely. So our body is still getting the signals, get ready to run, get ready to run, get ready to run. And that's what Buteyko addresses, because short-term, life-saving events. So your pupils widen so you can see more, your digestion stops, all the muscles in your body get ready to run.
Yeah.
And then if you do have to run away from something quick, it's designed that way. But if it keeps going on and on and on and there's no resolution, then you start getting into chronic stress illnesses or chronic stress symptoms.
Yeah.
Constant muscle tension, you get headaches, stomach problems. Our breathing changes, and our breathing can change permanently because of biochemistry. Even though, let's say, our stress was 4 or 5 years ago, it's like, my God, like that was a really rotten time in my life, but things are really good. Why do I still feel like my chest is so tight and I can't get my breath and things? Well, you've changed the chemistry to breathe differently. And that's what we work on with Buteyko, is we back that up slowly, gently, and permanently. We can do that.
Wow. That's so interesting.
It's so exciting. I love biochemistry. Now that you can
So
tell.
I know I've heard of, and I've even experienced a bit of the Hoff method.
Oh, yes. Wim Hof?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So is there any similarities or anything between Buteyko and Hoff? No.
No.
Okay.
There are many different kinds of techniques people can do to create different states. So
Okay.
Wim Hof, he does his thing with the cold water and the whole bit, just not Buteyko. Um, I'm concerned with your 20 to 30,000 breaths a day. That's how often we breathe in the day, 20 to 30,000 times. So
Wow.
you can imagine if something is a little bit off, but you're repeating it 30,000 times a day,
Yeah.
you can get a pretty big effect over time. Things like prana breathing, chi breathing, yoga breathing. There are different ways that you can change your breathing to create an effect. There's dragon breathing, fire breathing. It will create a different effect in your nervous system for sure, but you're
Yeah.
not usually doing that every day. So what I want to do is work with your everyday breathing. If you
Okay.
are super, super, super stressed and your breathing is really crap, some of those things they may not be as relaxing as they might once your breathing is better. They do often mimic stress breathing. So if you're already stressed, it might be better to kind of get your breathing in hand first
Yeah.
and then move on to something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It makes sense because when I did the Hoff method, and it was like a part of a online retreat that I was a part of,
Yeah.
um, they had us breathe into the chest, and then we breathed into the diaphragm, and then down lower into the stomach, and then we had to breathe with our backs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting to feel all of these areas that I'd never felt air actually be in the
Yes.
past. But it was also stressful in a way, trying to get the air to go into these different
Right.
areas that I wasn't even aware existed as part of my air area, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. And the other thing too is we think that there's only one diaphragm. There's actually three diaphragms in our body. Our pelvic diaphragm and our abdominal diaphragm. They all move when we breathe. And we also have a diaphragm like up here. So there's just we need to know how our bodies work so that we can understand more and appreciate it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one
Because
other
you're,
thing, oh,
yeah,
sorry,
go
I just
ahead.
want to say, sometimes people will say, oh, I do square breathing. Well, the problem with square breathing is if you breathe in big, you're going to have a great big square. And usually it's over breathing. So I've got a bunch of tips, things, to just help with regular breathing that you can do without too much fanfare.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, can you explain what is square breathing? Because you say that and I go, I don't even know what that is.
So square breathing, basically when we're breathing really fast and we're stressed and we kind of have that anxiety feeling, the idea is to breathe in for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4,
Mm,
breathe out for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4.
yeah.
But if you're already breathing too big, you're going to breathe huge in, wait huge, breathe out huge, and
Hmm.
then wait huge again. So
Yeah.
it can be helpful, but it's if you're already over breathing, it's probably not going to be that helpful. Yes. So
Okay.
that being said, everybody's different. I don't think there's a one size fits all, you know me.
Yeah.
But I would say if it's that dysfunctional or unhelpful that you're breathing, you're having that kind of panicky stuff, I would say start really slow, start with really gentle things, and just get into the habit of doing that for a few weeks, and then experiment and see what works for you and what doesn't.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So are people able to just contact you and say, hey, I need help with breathing? Or is it like a process of setting up an appointment? Or how does that look for those who might be interested?
I love to chat first because especially when people say, holy mackerel, I don't know about this thing. And, money can be tight right now. I 100% get that. So the best thing that I would say is give me a call or an email or, text me and let's set up a chat. We can chat on Zoom. We can chat on the phone. I want to get an idea I want you to also know who I am, get a feel for me because the connection is really important.
Yeah.
Dr. said years ago, he said to a group of doctors that when you perceive somebody cares about you, your immune system already starts to respond. So if you have a good connection with somebody, that's already part of the healing relationship.
Yeah.
So, and if it's not me, then, I have a pretty good bead on a lot of people in the area who do different things.
Awesome.
And yeah, and we can chat and find out, because maybe it needs to be a group effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Susie's writing in and she's saying, my son Luke has been practicing belly breathing. He calls it Qigong. She's wondering if this is good for people who have anxiety. So I'm assuming that Luke has anxiety and now he's practicing the Qigong. So is that a good method for him, or is there a better way for him to be breathing?
Well, I don't do Qigong. I don't
Okay.
know the kind of breathing that he's doing. Hi, Susie. And so if he has anxiety, then I would say maybe, I mean, if you're in BC, I know there's a few Buteyko practitioners out there, including my teacher, Chris Bowman. What you might want to do is connect with somebody there. When we talk about Buteyko breathing, all we're talking about is relaxing when you breathe. It sounds super simple, but it's doing it over a period of time to get that effect. If he breathes through his nose, if he relaxes his tummy, it doesn't have to be like if he's doing Qigong and let's say there's a pattern or he's supposed to breathe a certain way, if there's more to it, I don't know about that. Regular nose breathing, relaxing the tummy, maybe, doing something else to become mindful of where you are, maybe that might help. But, if you need somebody to have a look at that, I would say look at Buteyko breathing in BC and see if maybe there's somebody that you can have a chat with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that is able to be done on Zoom, or do you need to be in person with someone to notice how their breathing patterns are? And
We can do it on Zoom. It's nicer if we're together, but I also know that some folks are comfortable with that. Some different areas have different, levels of color right now.
yeah.
We can always move the camera to kind of have a look. The other thing is, if you're doing the exercises, the numbers that you get will tell me if you're doing them or not.
Mm.
You cannot escape my eyes when I when you do when you do the exercises. But that's exciting because even after the first set, when people are there for the very first time and they're like, I have no idea what this stuff is all about. When I lead them through the exercise, we usually do it twice just so I can make sure that they know what they're doing. It's super easy. It's just relaxing. They can start to see the numbers change. And it's like, there you go. One set, you've already started a positive shift in your body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, with the numbers that you're talking about, is that a machine that registers the numbers, or is that like a sliding scale of numbers that? No. Okay.
It's the pulse is one way that we measure. And then
Okay.
there's also a different type of measurement with the breath that we do. Sometimes people have performance anxiety, and sometimes we get the old type A's that, by God, I'm going to make that happen. And it's like, okay, that's not very relaxed. So defeating the purpose. So sometimes we have to, encourage, but there's always a point where somebody goes, got it. And you can see it. And that's the thing is it's not me who's doing it, it's you who's doing it. But now you have the tools in your hand to monitor what's going on. We call it the internal weather system for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it, because it really is a shitstorm that happens when your breathing is out of whack.
It is, and we don't notice it. Like on the hyperventilation test, if anybody wants it, I'm learning now how to put things on my MailChimp so that I can send them out. We'll get there, but if anybody wants the 3 top tips that I did, especially with the masks now, because it's not easy for everybody. It can be a little anxiety provoking, and some people are okay. So, but if you need to wear a mask, there's some tips that I have to go through with that about how to just make it a little easier on yourself.
Excellent. Excellent. I think it's been so interesting to me how much this entire year has been focused on breath.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
and I, I'm just so amazed by it, from the Australian wildfires to the California wildfires to COVID to what happened with George Floyd. And even myself, I was actually triggered and I was angry and I was like, I just want to throat punch someone. And then learned like a week ago that if you throat punch someone, it takes away their air. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to do that because I want everybody to keep breathing right now.
Right.
So,
I get you.
and with these masks, it is the big divide right now of people not being able to breathe properly while they're wearing the mask.
Yeah.
So I love that you've got this kind of 3 tips to be able to help people with that.
And one thing I can tell you is that when you breathe in, it's 29-ish% oxygen. When you breathe out, you actually breathe out about 15 to 16% oxygen. You are not going to die from carbon dioxide. That's not a chance, not a chance. So if we didn't breathe out more oxygen than carbon dioxide, how could we do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? Right?
This is why we need to know more about our bodies.
We do. We so do. But there's so much, when you think about it, not being able to breathe is a very, very, very deep primal response.
Yeah.
So whether it makes sense or not, and I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but some things make sense to us and some things don't, depending on who you are and what your thing is. But not being able to breathe, it's a big deal.
It's a threat to your safety.
It's the biggest deal, really. Really, it's the biggest deal. So, I mean, it makes sense with the level of fear, but at the same time, remember that there are thousands of ways that we can positively influence our health. We don't have to sit around in fear waiting for, if there's a vaccine and it's great and safe and stuff and it helps, fantastic, fantastic. But you don't actually have to wait for that to positively influence your health. You can get good sleep, get good rest, use the tapping app, on the App Store, get out into nature, connect with, you can connect. Yes, so many different things. So, there are still things we can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Esther is saying, can your breathing affect your blood pressure or cause you to faint? My mother has been having fainting spells and she does have breathing issues. I just thought maybe this may help her. The doctors aren't able to find out what's wrong with her right now.
Okay. One of the things that I can tell you is, and again, if people improve their breathing, it doesn't matter what is happening with them, it can't hurt, because there's nothing that I teach anybody that would negatively influence. Now, if someone has massive COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders, emphysema, things like that, we can still do this. We just approach it a little bit differently. But here's what I can tell you. So when we breathe, we have to have a certain amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen balance in our lungs. When we overbreathe, we don't have enough carbon dioxide. Number 2 thing to take away from today is carbon dioxide is not a waste gas, it's BS. It's a very necessary part of our breathing. And in fact, carbon dioxide drives our breathing, not lack of oxygen. So I'm just going to get all excited here for a minute. So when we don't have that proper ratio, it makes muscles do this. So we have muscles in our breathing tubes, our blood tubes, our digestive tubes. All of our tubes have muscles because sometimes they need to do this, to move blood, to move our food, to move all kinds of things in our bodies. So Buteyko breathing is phenomenal for blood pressure because it teaches you how to relax. And when you relax, your blood pressure usually goes down. So if it's just simple stress-based blood pressure, Buteyko is phenomenal for it. We go into this much more deeply, but it's super easy to understand. And it makes sense that because when you do the hyperventilation test, all the little symptoms, people will say, why are you asking me how many times I get up to pee in the night on a breathing thing? And it's like, because all of our systems are affected. And
really,
crazy little things. How's your allergies? Do you get up 9 times to go to the bathroom at night? Have you noticed your allergies increase? Do you have postnasal drip? All these things that seem kind of random, but they're
Yeah.
not, because every system is affected by how we breathe. So
Wow.
long story short, Esther, I would love to have a chat.
So Esther is actually saying her mother has very low blood pressure, and that's what's causing the fainting, I guess.
Okay.
So opposite end of the high blood pressure. So would
Right.
breathing also affect with that then?
I would probably want to know a little bit more
Fair enough.
before anything that can help someone relax, especially if they're worried about a condition, might just help them feel better. I would probably need to know a little bit more. And I would always,
Absolutely.
if I am not sure, I have a whole group of people that I take my things to and say, hey, this is what's going on with this person. So I can always find the information that we might need.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Sorry to throw you on the spot like that,
No,
but
that's okay. That's okay.
because it's so individual for each person, right? And
It so is.
yeah. So peeing a lot in the middle of the night has to do with your breathing.
Possibly.
Wow.
Yeah. Most people will find that I found that my sleep changed. That was the first thing I noticed. I found that my appetite really reduced, but this is not a diet thing.
Yeah.
Things felt like they normalized out.
Mm.
I would go to sleep at night and I would sometimes wake up in the same position because everything just works better.
Wow.
Yeah. And people that, kind of get up in the middle of the night a couple of times, many of them find that stops in a few weeks as well.
Wow.
Now, if you go to bed and have a ginormous drink of water, it might be the water.
We can't account it for everything.
That's right. That's right. Realism here, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I tend to experience while I'm sleeping, I move a lot in my sleep. And I also have a lot of postnasal drip that is just a constant, like all year long, but does tend to heighten in the fall, but it's still there the rest of the year. So would that have to all do with the breathing? Yeah, okay. I knew this already, but okay.
The funny part is you start to get stuffy because you mouth breathe. And then you mouth breathe because you're stuffy. And then you're stuffy because you mouth breathe. So it's just kind of this backwards cycle. People are like, well, I can't breathe through my nose. Do you have a bit of a stuffy nose right now by chance?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to try something cool?
Sure.
Live demo as it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is something everybody can do. And it's how to clear your nose. So watch me first.
Okay.
So I would just breathe in gently through my nose and out gently through my nose. When I'm done exhaling, then I pinch my nose. I like to just block because sometimes when I pinch, my nose sticks together. I don't like it. It's like, oh. So it's in through your nose gently, out through your nose, block, and then you nod your head. One sec. You nod. One sec. Oh, just 1 sec. It's okay. I just don't want you to do it incorrectly.
Yeah.
Nod your head like 5 times like this, and then you let go and take a gentle breath in. We'll probably do it twice. Okay, so we'll do it together. Okay, so
all right.
Gentle breath in through your nose. Gentle breath out through your nose. Block. Keep your lips closed now. Stop. Let go. Now, don't open your mouth. Take another gentle breath in through your nose, out through your nose. At the end of it, block 5 times. Stop, let go. Gentle breath in through your nose. Now just go back to breathing normally. Do you notice a difference?
Yes. I wish I had cameras up there beforehand to just prove how much it just opened up.
Yeah.
Wow. It's interesting. I'll often go like this and I'll, try and break things up, but that's so much easier.
Yeah. So when you do that, there's some back pressure from the blocking. Carbon dioxide has built up even in that tiny little time.
Yeah.
Which helps open things. And also nitric acid is produced in here, which is a germ killer and it also opens up your nasal passages.
Wow.
Yup.
Wow.
I get excited about biochemistry.
That is awesome.
Isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lady here in Kitchener who took the Buteyko course with Chris Bowman, who I learned from about probably 5 or 8 years ago now. And she has terrific allergies. And she said, the only thing that saves my life every summer is being able to clear her nose that way, because it's the only thing that works. So just 2 things with that. Don't nod your head too hard too many times.
Okay.
Don't breathe in and plug. It's in, out, block.
Okay.
Don't do it for too long. Otherwise you go, because you waited too long and you'll do it.
Yeah.
You go, crap, I'm going to calm down and then do it again.
Yeah.
But we teach that. That's one of the fundamentals, because you need to keep your nose clear so we can
Yeah.
nose breathe.
Wow. That's incredible. And the fact that it helps with allergies as well. Because this year especially, I was very triggered by a lot of environmental stuff, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I seem to have more allergies than what my normal is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's very beneficial. You're amazing.
And I would venture to guess, and again, it's just a guess, your allergies are probably worse because your breathing was crap. And the crap you are breathing, the more those symptoms will occur. People find that Buteyko is excellent for allergies as well.
Yeah.
And when you were saying about the cold weather asthma, once you know how the biochemistry part works and you can warm up your lungs before you go outside, that can stop.
Oh, beautiful.
And when you understand what happens when you don't breathe properly and all the little tubes in your lungs are going because your body's actually trying to get you to slow down your breathing so that things can open back up. But, you know, nobody wants to not breathe. So, yeah. Oh, I think
you are freezing up here on me. Oh, no, we're back again.
There, we're back. Yep.
Okay. Technology has been so fantastic lately. So Doris is saying, I broke my nose and find that when blowing my nose, it stops halfway through the blow.
It might be because you're blowing hard. Do you blow one side at a time, Doris, or both sides together?
We'll just wait for her answer, because there's always a little bit of a lag between comments and answers.
Okay. That's okay. And while we're waiting for her answer, the one thing I do want to say is all of this is done with you continuing and always taking any medication that you take for asthma, allergies, whatever. You just keep taking everything exactly the same.
Okay.
Asthma, you can reduce symptoms. People have come off their puffers within a month or 2.
Wow.
But if you're taking a preventer, people with asthma will understand what I'm saying. You just keep taking that as normal, because you just do, because I'm not a doctor. But if you only have to take your rescue inhaler when you need it, if you haven't needed it for 6 weeks, that's when you can go back to the doctor and say, hey, I'm doing this crazy breathing thing, but I actually haven't had to use this puffer for a really long time. You know, could we look at, you know, changing something, or what do you think? And then that's the conversation you have with your doctor. So always 100% doing with whatever your doctor says.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes for all healing modalities. None of us are doctors. So.
I like to think I might be one, but no, I'm not.
So Doris is saying it just stops altogether, and it's both that she's blowing together. Sorry, let me rephrase. It just stops and it's both together.
Okay. I would wonder, and because I can't scope your nose, I don't know. Remember in the beginning, we talked about so much air coming in, everything collapses. If you're blowing out really hard, maybe that's what's happening too. So what I would maybe suggest is, and again, if there's anything untoward, if it's a symptom that's new and you should see your doctor, go see your doctor. But maybe just try very, very, very super gently blowing one side at a time. And just be like really, really gentle. Because overblowing can sometimes drive the stuff back up into your sinuses.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's also saying that it's only one side that stops. So I guess one is free flowing and the other side stops.
You could experiment with just doing one side super gently, like especially the one side that might be affected. It could be physics. If that part of the nose has narrowed and there's a lot of force coming through, maybe it's kind of blocking itself. I don't know. She might want to talk to her nose doctor or her regular doctor to see if that might be accurate. If it's just something that's kind of a annoying rather than a problem, just maybe try blowing softer one side at a time and just see what happens.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I know in the bio, you talked about giving out a free Buteyko breathing thing. So can you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit more about that and how people would be able to access that?
I can. Do you know how many people do we have on here with us, Catherine?
8 right now.
8 right now? Okay. So I'm trying to think of how I can get it out. If anybody wants it, if they want to send me a quick email or a message on Facebook, then I can email them both to them.
Okay,
Okay.
beautiful.
Because right now I'm trying to figure out a way to like attach it where you could just go to my Facebook page and click on it, working on it. But if anybody just wants me to email them or message them to them, I can do that too. So
Beautiful. And
yeah,
can you remind me, what is your email address again, just so I can put it in here in the comments?
for sure. So it's Christine, Christine, the number 4,
Or Reiki? Yeah.
or Reiki, yep, at Rogers.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And I will just get that in there for everybody. And yes, we'll have a conversation after this.
Perfect. Perfect.
Now, since the last time you were on here, I know this has nothing to do with breathing. However, I also know that you just recently came out with a Reiki Oracle deck, which is super exciting. I've got mine here behind me. So can you share a little bit about that and all
Yes,
of
I
that
can.
goodness?
Thank you
Awesome.
very much. Thank you. Thank you. So as a Reiki teacher, one of the things that I heard a lot was, oh my God, I completely forgot that I could use Reiki for that. So everybody gets very excited for level 2 and you learn the symbols and how to do all kinds of things. But then we kind of go away from the class and life takes over and it's like, ah, crap, I could have Reiki'd my food. I could have done this. I could have done that. So over the summer, my things tend to just kind of fall in and there it was. So it was like, how about a deck to remind you how you can use Reiki? So that's the Reiki Reminders deck. And there's a very big artistic development that's happening in me for a lot of different reasons. And that's my own artwork um, with my pictures and all kinds of things. So something is brewing. But in the meantime, it's a 54 card deck. And there's some self-reflection cards in here. There's some, hey, you could make a Reiki hat or a Reiki scarf or a Reiki waterfall. There's a way to remind yourself about what each of the symbols means. I've put the names of the symbols, but not the actual symbol themselves. There are a lot of, there's a wide variety of opinions about whether you should show the symbols or not. So I tried to kind of find the middle way. And I've also combined a little bit of some Buteyko, some relaxation and things like that in here too, because it all works together.
Absolutely.
All of the things that we do, they work together. You might have heard about the vagus nerve. All of a sudden now it's like everything for the vagus nerve. Well, the vagus nerve's always been there doing its thing. We've just kind of finally discovered how we can use it to help influence our health.
Yeah.
And so it all goes together, but it's a lot of fun. I'm so grateful for the feedback I've had. Folks seem to find it a lot of fun. And I do have about 20 decks left before Christmas. So if anybody would like one, I can mail it out, I can deliver it. And yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. And actually, Kathy's on here saying that they're a great deck. So there you go.
Thank you, Kathy.
Now, one question that I like to ask people when they're doing the In the Spotlight is if you could share one piece of wisdom, anything in the world, with the world right now, what would you want the world to know?
self-compassion. For God's sake, let's just give ourselves a break, because that's all we can do right now. It's really all we can do. We have, most of us, I should say, have never lived with the length of time that things have been so uncertain. I think it's also brought to attention the people that do live with this kind of uncertainty all the time. And I think maybe that has opened our eyes to a few things as well. But if you're not eating the way you think you should eat, who cares? If you're not moving the way you think you should move right now, who cares? Do what you can. And the other thing I'd like to say is, I see a lot of posts about releasing. Okay, if that works, that's great. But maybe we need to start to gather. We need to gather things to us, because you can't release all the time. That's kind of looking at what isn't working. Well, look at what is working. Find the comfort. Gather it to you. This is this time of year as well. This is the solstice. And this is the time we need to gather our comfort, gather the warmth, gather the light to get through this. And then it won't be like this forever. And after the 21st, the days start to get longer again. Do you know that in the winter, the days only get longer? And in the summer, the days only get shorter?
Yes.
Yes. Is that right? So right now, give yourself a break, give yourself some compassion, cut everybody else a break if possible, and just get through this. That's all.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight.
Thank you and everybody.
If anybody is wanting to reach out to Christine to talk to her more about Buteyko Breathing, to order an oracle deck, or just talk to her because she's a really awesome person, you guys can email her at christineforreiki@rogers.com, or head on over to her website, www.newhealinghorizons.ca. And she's also on Facebook as New Healing Horizons as well. So thank you everyone for joining us. Next week, we do have Jen Feeble joining us to talk to us about shadows and being nice and how that all works together. So really looking forward to that one as well. And I hope you guys will be able to join us. Have a great night.
Absolutely. Good night.